Adding units to existing residential buildings is a strategy many cities use to expand their housing options, and San Francisco is no exception. In recent years, the city has employed new programs to promote accessory dwelling units, or ADUs. ADUs are also commonly known as secondary units, in-law units, granny flats, or cottages. ADUs are typically developed using an underutilized space, such as a parking garage, storage room, or attic. They can play a unique and important role in a neighborhood's housing supply. San Francisco first adopted its ADU program in 2014 for select districts and has since expanded citywide. This video will explain 4 components to adding an ADU to your property: benefits, eligibility, cost, and design. As a property owner, there are both lifestyle and financial benefits to adding an ADU.
Yeah, our clients are choosing to build ADUs for a number of different reasons, varying from just an additional source of income to a place for family members to live, a place for themselves to live if they're kind of an aging baby boomer and they want to create a space that they might be able to move into with the vision of having their children move into the front house or the main house. It really kind of runs the gamut, and that's kind of what makes it exciting.
We immediately saw the potential for a unit like this. I would say the long-term future is about convertibility. While we're just, 2 income, no kids right now, that could change in the future. And there's also the option, as my father, who lives in the East Bay, grows closer to retirement, he might have a need to move into this space. So it's about family.
Yeah, that's what many of our clients, or almost the vast majority of our clients, are choosing to build these accessory dwellings for family overwhelmingly. And oftentimes there's some financial component in the short term and in the next couple of years. But usually they're thinking long term, either for their parents or their kids.
So right now our tenant is a nurse. It's wonderful because she has the opportunity to live in the city where she works, and she isn't necessarily a high income earner. So right now a lot of people can't actually live in San Francisco who also work here. So it's also wonderful for us because we have supplemental income that helps us to support our lives and provide some income for childcare, which also is challenging to pay for.
Another way ADUs can provide financial flexibility is through seismic retrofitting. If you build an ADU while also undergoing the structural work of a retrofit, you can help offset the overall construction costs.
So when we're doing the soft story retrofit, we're adding walls, we're adding foundation. You certainly want to coordinate the locations of those walls with where an apartment, living room, kitchen, bedroom wants to be. The convenience of combining these construction projects into one really cuts down on the duration by 3 or 4 months, because you're just kind of getting all the work done at one time. While you're roughing in the seismic work, you can also be roughing in the mechanical and electrical for a new unit.
With all of these great benefits, you're probably wondering, am I allowed to build an ADU on my property? If you own a home or apartment building, the answer is likely yes. To find out if your property is eligible and how many units you're allowed to build, contact San Francisco Planning. You also may be able to add units to your building without using the ADU program, so be sure to ask about all options that might be available. Also, be sure to check out our website for information about eligibility, the permitting process, and much more. When using the ADU program, these units cannot take space from an existing residential unit, and they must be constructed within the existing envelope. However, the planning code often allows waivers from certain requirements. For example, parking spaces can be removed to accommodate an ADU, or you may not be required to provide additional open space per unit. Be sure to speak with staff at the Planning Information Center about what is and isn't allowed. And be sure to check out our ADU handbook, also available on our website. Developed with OpenScope Studio, the handbook explains the various physical forms for ADUs, multiple city codes which regulate adding ADUs, and when such investment is financially feasible or beneficial to small property owners.
The ADU handbook is useful for homeowners and building owners because it lays out the basics and helps people visualize whether or not this is something that's even worth pursuing on their property. The bulk of the handbook is prototypes that show how these units fit into the typical San Francisco buildings. It's kind of a good overview before somebody goes out and starts talking to contractors or architects.
The next step is determining your cost and financing options. The costs of building an ADU can vary depending on the type of unit you are constructing and the complexity of your existing structure.
In my experience, on average, the units cost about $200,000 each, and that usually doesn't include the soft story retrofit.
One thing that has surprised me is that what we've seen in our clients is the range of people that are doing this. It literally covers the entire breadth of income. From people that have no income at all, but they're fortunate to already own a home, or all the way up to the wealthiest people.
As first-time home buyers, we were a bit concerned and overwhelmed by the sheer size of our mortgage payment. So this was a good way for us to offset that heavy financial burden. We're looking at about 3 years to pay off, give or take a couple months. It just, on paper, it made too much sense. We'd be crazy not to do it.
You can find a detailed breakdown of construction and permit costs in the handbook. You can also use the financial calculator tool on our website. It will help estimate how long it might take to recoup the costs of construction. Next, start thinking about how you want your ADU to look. While there are a wide variety of options to consider, a first-floor garage space is the most common conversion.
So we live in a predominantly single-family neighborhood in the Mission. Most of the houses on the block are single-family. There are a couple of 2 units. But we have kind of the upper floor, and then behind the garage is where our in-law unit is. So she's able to have a little bit of privacy, set back from the street, has a view to the backyard, and and we have separate entrances. So we ultimately have 2 different homes. It's just that we're within the same footprint.
A well-designed ADU looks like a new, modern, open-plan apartment on the inside, but on the outside, it looks like the building has always been there.
Once you've selected an architect and a contractor, they'll work with you to determine what style is most appropriate for your home. You can also get more ideas from the different models discussed in the ADU handbook. San Francisco Planning is here to help guide you through the ADU process. Visit our website for more information or contact the Planning Information Center.